A 40-foot wave hits the bow and the entire 200-ton vessel drops out from under your feet. For one full second, you are weightless, and then the deck slams back into your boots hard enough to compress your spine. The Bering Sea has killed more men per capita than any workplace in America. 1 in every 7 crab fishermen will die on the job. You just haven't done the math yet. Right now, you're standing on the dock in Dutch Harbor, Alaska, at 4 in the morning in January. The temperature is 9 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind is blowing 32 knots from the northwest, driving horizontal sleet that feels like small needles against your face. The boat is a 128-foot steel crab vessel called the Arctic Voyager. It smells like diesel, fish, and rust. You are about to go to the Bering Sea. You got this job because you knew someone who knew someone. There is no application. There is no training program. There is no orientation. The captain looked at you, asked if you could lift 100 pounds, and said, "Don't die on my boat." That is your job description. You are a Greenhorn, the lowest crew member. You have never been on a fishing vessel. You have never been in the Bering Sea. You have never experienced waves that are 30 feet high, which you will learn the Bering Sea considers unremarkable. The boat leaves the dock at 6. Within 45 minutes, you are vomiting over the rail. The motion is violent. The vessel pitches, rolls, and yaws simultaneously. Your inner ear cannot establish equilibrium. Your body is convinced you are falling and will not stop telling you so. You vomit until there is nothing left, and then you dry heave for another hour. The deck boss approaches. He is 6'2", 240 pounds, and has been fishing since he was 17. He looks at you leaning on the rail and says, "You done?" You nod. He says, "Good, stack those pots." He points at a wall of 700-pound steel crab pots stacked 4 high on the deck. You learn very quickly that greenhorns do not get to be sick. They get to be sick and work at the same time. You survived your first trip. 63 hours on deck with 6 hours of sleep. You pulled, baited, and reset 300 crab pots in seas that range from 12 to 31 feet. Your hands are raw, cracked, and bleeding from handling frozen steel and braided line in sub-zero temperatures. Your waterproof gear failed on day 2, a tear in the bib overalls, and you spent the remaining 4 days soaked in 34-degree seawater. The money is real. In 5 days, you made $11,000, your share of the boat's catch of Opilio crab. The fishery pays by percentage. Captain takes a fixed share, then the crew splits the remainder based on seniority. As a greenhorn, you get the smallest cut. It is still more than you would make in a month at any job on shore. You learn the work. Dropping pots, the crane swings a 700-pound pot over the rail while the boat rolls 20 degrees. You hook the bridle with a gaff and guide it over the side. If the pot swings back, it will crush you against the rail. If the line tangles around your foot, it will pull you overboard with 800 pounds of steel descending to the seafloor at 400 feet. You will not surface. Pulling pots. The hydraulic block hauls the pot up from the bottom. The pot breaks the surface full of crab or full of nothing. You sort the keepers by size and sex, males over 6.5 inches across the carapace. Everything else goes back. You work the sorting table in spray that freezes on your face. The crab pincers can break a finger. You have seen it happen. The injured deckhand wrapped it in tape and kept working. A rogue wave buries the deck under 4 feet of freezing water. The wave hits without warning. The sea was running 20 feet and this one was 35. You grab the rail with both hands. The water pulls at your legs. A crew member who wasn't holding on slides across the deck and hits the sorting table. Bruised ribs. He works the next 12 hours because there is no one to replace him. 3 seasons. You have crossed the Bering Sea 26 times. You know the feel of the boat when the pitch means heavy weather is coming, when the engine note changes because the propeller is loading differently in a following sea, when the silence on the bridge means the captain is worried. You have learned to sleep in 90-minute intervals in a bunk that smells like 30 years of sweat and diesel. The engine room is directly below. The vibration is constant, a deep, percussive hum that becomes as natural as breathing. You wake, dress in thermal layers, bibs, boots, rain gear, and gloves in 4 minutes, and you are on deck ready to work before your brain fully registers that you are conscious. Ice, the mortal enemy of every crab vessel. When the temperature drops below 20 degrees and the spray is heavy, seawater freezes on every surface, the rails, the rigging, the pots, the deck, the wheelhouse windows. The ice accumulates at a rate that can exceed 2 inches per hour. The weight of the ice raises the boat's center of gravity, making it increasingly unstable. If enough ice accumulates, the boat rolls over and sinks. It happens fast. It has happened to over 200 Bering Sea vessels in recorded history. You break ice. Sledgehammers, baseball bats, mallets. You swing until your shoulders burn. The ice shatters and falls to the deck and you shovel it over the side. Then more spray hits and the ice begins forming again. You have spent 12 consecutive hours breaking ice between pot sets. Your arms stopped working at hour 8. You continued by swinging from the hips. You run the deck, 6 crew members under your command. You decide the workflow, when to bait, when to set, when to pull, where to stack, how to handle the gear and weather that changes by the hour. The captain gives you the coordinates. You execute. The deck boss is the most dangerous position on the boat. You are the person closest to the gear, the rail, and the water at all times. You bait the pots. You hook the crane. You call the shots while 700-pound pots swing over the deck on a boat that is rolling 30 degrees in 25-foot seas. A deckhand gets his leg caught in the coiled line as a pot goes over the rail. The line snaps tight against his calf. You have approximately 1.5 seconds before the sinking pot pulls the line and his leg over the rail and into the sea. You grab the emergency line knife from your belt and cut the line in a single stroke. The pot drops into the water without the deckhand attached to it. The line leaves a friction burn through his rain gear that blisters his skin from knee to ankle. He walks it off. There is no alternative. You lose a pot string in a storm, 8 pots in sequence carried off by a current shift. The gear is worth $48,000. The captain is furious, not at you, at the sea. The gear is unrecoverable. You re-rig replacement pots from spares and keep fishing because the season waits for no one. You make $162,000 this season. You send half home. You spend a quarter on the bar tab in Dutch Harbor during the turnaround. You save the rest. You tell yourself you will quit next year. You do not quit. 7 seasons. You have seen everything the Bering Sea has to offer: 40-foot seas, 100-knot Willowa winds that descend off the Aleutian volcanoes without warning, ice storms that entomb a vessel in a shell of frozen spray, and fog so dense that the captain navigates by radar alone for 72 hours straight. You have been overboard once. A wave took you off the rail during a pot pull. The water was 33 degrees. You went under. The immersion suit you were wearing, the one you thought was uncomfortable and restrictive, saved your life. It kept you buoyant and insulated long enough for the crew to throw a life ring and pull you back aboard. You were in the water for 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Your core temperature dropped to 94 degrees. The cold was so overwhelming that you could not close your hands to grip the life ring. The crew had to loop the line under your arms. On the deck afterward, wrapped in blankets, shaking so violently your teeth cracked, the captain looked at you and said, 40 more seconds and you'd be dead. He was not exaggerating. Hypothermia in the Bering Sea progresses from cold to incapacitation to cardiac arrest in under 5 minutes. You returned to the deck 4 hours later and finished the pot set, not because you were brave, because the crab don't wait, the weather window was closing and the crew needed you. This is the calculus of the Bering Sea. Your survival and the survival of the operation are the same thing. You are a full share deckhand, equal split with the senior crew. The captain recognizes that you work harder, smarter, and more reliably than anyone he has hired in 15 years. Your share last season was $218,000 for 4 months of work. You know every crab ground in the southeastern Bering Sea. You can read the pot soak times, how many hours a pot sits on the bottom before pulling, and predict the catch rate based on water temperature, current, and bottom composition. Sand bottom in 30 fathoms with a temperature of 36 degrees at an 8-hour soak yields an average of 14 keeper crab per pot. Mud bottom in the same conditions yields 6. This knowledge is not taught. It is accumulated over years of observation and failure. A crewmate develops appendicitis mid-trip. The nearest port is 18 hours away. The seas are running 22 feet. The captain increases speed beyond the vessel's comfort envelope. The boat slams into every wave with a force that shakes the hull and rattles every fitting on board. The crewmate is in the galley, white as paper, vomiting bile, his abdomen rigid. If the appendix ruptures, he will develop peritonitis and likely die before you reach port. You reach Dutch Harbor in 16 hours. An ambulance is waiting at the dock. The crewmate is taken to surgery. The appendix had not ruptured. He returns to the boat the following season with a scar and a story. You return to the fishing grounds and finish the trip short-handed. The captain gives you the wheel during off watches. You run the boat for 6-hour shifts, navigating, monitoring weather, managing the engine room alarms, and watching the radar for other vessels, container ships, and the enormous factory trawlers that operate in the Bering Sea year-round and will not deviate from their track for a 128-foot crab boat. You learn to read the sea the way the captain reads it, not just the wave height and period, but the character of the water. A sharp, confused sea means the wind is fighting the current. A long, rolling swell means deep water weather approaching from the west. A sudden change in the sea state, from rough to glassy, in the Bering Sea means one thing: the wind is about to shift and hit harder from the opposite direction. You navigate through the Unimak Pass, a narrow strait between Unimak Island and the Alaska Peninsula that connects the Bering Sea to the North Pacific. The pass is notorious for extreme tidal currents, up to 8 knots, that create standing waves, overfalls, and chaotic seas that can overwhelm a vessel. You time your transit for slack tide and still get hammered by a 6-foot standing wave that breaks over the bow and buries the foredeck. You begin to understand the captain's burden. Every decision he makes, where to set, when to run, whether to fish or wait, carries the weight of lives. A wrong decision in the Bering Sea is not a loss of revenue. It is a loss of people. He has made these decisions for 30 years. He does not sleep well. He does not talk about it. You buy a boat, a 142-foot steel crab vessel. The purchase price is $2.6 million. The bank finances 80%. Your annual mortgage payment is $312,000. Insurance is $189,000. Crew costs, fuel, bait, gear, maintenance, and permits add another $400,000. You need to catch over $1 million worth of crab to break even. The boat is your empire and your prison. Every mechanical failure, every electrical fault, every hull issue, it is your problem. The main engine, a 12-cylinder Caterpillar producing over 1,000 horsepower, requires constant attention. The hydraulic system that powers the crane and block runs at 3,000 psi and will sever a limb if a fitting fails. The refrigeration system that keeps the ketch alive in the hold operates on anhydrous ammonia, a toxic gas that will kill you in minutes if the system leaks in an enclosed space. Your first season as captain, you lose $140,000. The crab quota is lower than expected. The price per pound drops. Fuel costs rise. You mortgage your house to cover the shortfall. Your wife signs the papers without speaking to you. Your second season, you find crab. String of pots in a new ground produces an average of 43 keepers per pot. You fill the hold 180,000 pounds of Apilio crab. The processor pays $5.60 per pound. One trip over $1 million gross. After expenses and crew shares, your net is $312,000. You are solvent. You are fishing. A December storm. The Weather Service issues a warning. Seas to 45 feet, winds to 85 knots, visibility near zero. You have a full hold and are running for port. The seas build faster than the forecast predicted. By midnight, the waves are exceeding 50 feet. The boat climbs each wave like a cliff face. The bow rises until you are looking at the sky, then the crest passes beneath you and the bow drops into the trough. The drop is 4 stories. The impact at the bottom shakes the entire vessel. Dishes explode in the galley. Tools fly off the engine room workbench. The crew hangs on to anything bolted down. A wave hits the Wheelhouse broadside. The windows on the port side crack but hold tempered glass rated for 1,500 pounds per square foot. Water pours in through the ventilation ducts. The electronics on the port console short out. You lose the port radar and half the navigation instruments. You switch to the starboard radar and navigate by a single screen that is barely visible through the spray on the Wheelhouse windows. The bilge alarm sounds. Water in the engine room. A hull fitting has cracked, a 4-inch seawater intake for the engine cooling system. Your engineer wraps it with a wooden plug and a pipe clamp. It holds. It has to hold. After 18 hours, the storm abates. The seas drop to 20 feet. You pull into Dutch Harbor with 3 cracked windows, a compromised hull fitting, and a crew that has not slept in 36 hours. Nobody is injured. The boat is intact. You sit in the captain's chair after the crew has gone ashore. The harbor is calm. The boat rocks gently at the dock. You light a cigarette, a habit you picked up from the previous captain who died of lung cancer at 61. You think about the storm, not the fear. The math, 50-foot seas against a hull designed for 40. A cracked fitting that held because an engineer with 20 years of experience knew the right fix. A window that didn't break because you spent $9,000 on upgraded glass last refit. Everything held. This time, you are 56 years old. 28 seasons in the Bering Sea. You have caught over 11 million pounds of crab across your career. You have survived 4 storms that exceeded the boat's design parameters. You have pulled 3 men out of the water. You have attended the funerals of 7 fishermen who did not come home. Your body is the price of admission. Both shoulders have been surgically repaired, rotator cuff tears from decades of hauling gear. Your hands have permanent grip weakness from frostbite incidents in your 20s that damaged the nerves. Your back has 3 compressed discs. Your right knee grinds audibly. You take 700 milligrams of naproxen every morning and do not complain because every fisherman you know takes the same or more. You think about selling the boat. The quota system has changed. The seasons are shorter. The crab population fluctuates in ways that the biologists attribute to ocean warming but cannot predict. The economics of independent fishing are being squeezed by corporate consolidation. The fleet that once had over 200 boats now has fewer than 60. You take the boat out one more time. January. The Bering Sea is doing what it always does: gray, cold, violent. The first pot comes up with 27 keepers, the second with 31, the third with 44. You are on crab, your crew works the deck. They are young, the oldest is 32. They move with the borrowed confidence of men who have not yet learned what the sea can do. You watch them from the Wheelhouse and see every version of yourself: the Greenhorn who vomited over the rail, the deckhand who got dragged by the coil, the deck boss who cut the line, the man who went overboard and came back to the deck 4 hours later. The trip ends. The hold is full. You run for port with the wind behind you. The sun sets over the Aleutian chain, volcanic islands rising from the sea in a line that stretches to Japan. The sky is orange and purple and endless. You pull into Dutch Harbor. The crane offloads the crab. The processor writes the check. You pay the crew. You pay the fuel bill. You pay the mortgage. You walk up the dock. The harbor smells like salt, diesel, and fish. It has always smelled like this. It will always smell like this. You stop. You look back at the boat. She sits low in the water, heavy with ice, streaked with rust, beautiful in the way that only working things can be. You turn around, you walk to the truck, you start the engine, the heater kicks in, you drive home. The sea stays behind, but the sea never really stays behind.